Welcome, everybody. We're going to be taking your calls today off Twitter Spaces. Some interesting things going on out there in the world, and I'll be happy to answer your questions about it. Of course, the Florida Surgeon General has raised concerns about vaccinating young males, and of course, we've been talking about that on this show, the Wednesday show in particular, for quite some time. It is a concern. Exactly what position people should be taking on it is still an evolving, it's like a moving target. And I've noticed that there's a video on Twitter circulating around two things: me talking a year and a half ago and then me speaking now. And yeah, before I was quite a bit more enthusiastic about the universal application of vaccine. Now I've got some concerns, but I still recommend it for my elderly patients. It has clearly helped there. 22-year-old male athlete, that's a different story. 45-year-old female, not pregnant, not planning on having kids. Okay, we'll see. Particularly, are there any medical risks, what they call co-occurring disorders with that. But anyway, we'll get to all that and your questions. Get on Twitter Spaces, raise your hand. By raising your hand, you agree to be out on all the platforms we stream on. We'll see you in a minute. I'll be watching you on Restream and the Rumble Rants. Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for Christ's sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say. The Vicon, of course. I do have a lot more to say, and of course I'll answer your questions as well. And Susan and I have been touring around the country a little bit this last weekend. We were in Florida and then Colorado, and it's kind of intriguing to me how this country is almost becoming 50 different countries. The difference between Florida, California, and Colorado are enormous. It really kind of striking to me how different these states are and how different the cultures are becoming. I would not by any stretch call things going on here in California better than in other places, and quite the contrary. Susan, do you agree with me on this?
No. I mean, I liked Florida.
Right.
But Florida was free. They were feeling free and
people were thriving.
Coming back to life.
People were thriving.
Happy and
that's exactly right.
Even after the hurricane, and sorry about
and by the way, the hurricane, we've now been to Florida. The hurricane hit a tiny swath of Florida.
But it did some damage.
It damaged when it hit, when the eye hit it over Fort Myers. That was a catastrophe. In that area, the media made it seem like Florida was the catastrophe. Yeah. No, it was not. It was not. We were in regions, we were the whole southern area. You could not tell that anything had happened at all. Somebody's asking questions about the...
so crazy how it just hits small areas.
Well, I mean, it's, it depends how...
zooms right through.
That's right.
And good thing Tom Cigars is okay.
Tom Cigars is okay, everybody. BC Side says the LA City Council meeting was wild. I'm sure of that. We have, for those of you that don't know, we had 3 LA City Council members who proved themselves to be racist, really racist people. Again, whenever people are accusing other people of being racist, I always think people that I know aren't racist are being accused of being racist. I wonder if that person is doing the accusation is just projecting. Lo and behold, we definitely know that to be true. Our LA County Board of Supervisor president and 2 other Board of Supervisors, out of control racism and misogyny and just really sort of disgusting thinking and talk, even back for backstage conversation. It was ridiculous. And now the President of the United States has called upon them to resign, although they have not done so in spite of extreme pressure from the community here in Los Angeles. I believe...
We should call Catherine Barker on that.
Yeah, it might be interesting to get her on.
So we have 178 people over on Twitter Spaces, so just so you know.
Okay, I'll get to the calls in a second.
Drew, I think it just came in breaking news a few minutes ago that one of the president of the LA City Council just resigned.
Okay, so that was
at least one.
What's her name? Nuri.
Nuri.
It starts with an N, her last name. Nuri. Yeah, so that is good. That's appropriate. Look, I think this country, this city particularly, and this county, just waking up to the fact that our government is completely incompetent. The basic, everybody. This is what we didn't see in Florida. We saw government functioning here. Basic functions: water, safety, transportation, the delivery of goods and services, keeping the supply chain, they nothing, zero. What got me going, I saw, and an article about listen to this, Susan. I didn't tell you this. I tweeted this. It was an article that was written about the engineering firm who was supposed to give us our fast rail train. So California had a good idea. We're going to put a fast train from Los Angeles to San Francisco. Well, it ended up being from Bakersfield to Fresno. They never laid down one track, and they spent $71 billion. And the engineering company who was working on it was so disgusted that in 2018, they went to Morocco, because that was a functioning government in North Africa, and built a fast rail for them. That's California, everybody. If fires, they don't do forestry. They don't seemingly strike back. But I don't want to do too much of that today. I want to get to your calls. That's what I want to get to.
Yeah, he does it all day long, every day.
So I hope that's not true.
It's true.
But Tom Cigars likes it.
I just got off 2 planes with you and spent
because
4 days in a row
being in Florida
room.
and Colorado sort of it brought it to the fore for me. It made me think about it.
It does frustrate you though, and I wish there was something we could do.
Well, when you see people thriving and you know how close it is for people who live in this country to thrive again, we could be right there if it literally is our somebody. So I just saw a cool quote that said, "A nation of sheep beget a government of wolves," and that to me is a really interesting statement. But let me take your calls. In any event, we can talk about COVID. We put as the headline. I was going to talk a little bit about myocarditis and the Florida Surgeon General. I have humongous respect and admiration for that Florida Surgeon General. I suggest you all take a look at him. Look at what he's been saying. He's an extremely bright physician who knows what he's talking about. Now, he may not be always correct. He put up an article that has been sort of roundly criticized because it wasn't peer reviewed, and it was sort of I suspect it was kind of a preprint. And it at its core, it relied on ICD-9 codes. There it is. ICD-9 codes from hospitalization, which are notoriously inaccurate. He says they went back and checked the records. Now, okay. And there were not comparisons, there were not controls. There was a lot of problems with the study, but it did show and again, it wasn't able to ferret out how much was from COVID and how much was from vaccine, but it showed a marked increase in myocarditis and pericarditis in young males. There's no doubt that's happening, right? Even though I in California can't say it, because in California we have a law called AB 2098 that prevent doctors from discussing medical literature that is of concern, that has some deviation from the standard of care as issued by the CDC as it pertains to COVID. We're not allowed to present that to our patients, so we literally can't do informed consent any longer. But I will tell you for sure, a lot of physicians are very concerned about the myocarditis, pericarditis. I myself realize that I'm seeing an extraordinary amount of what are called supraventricular tachycardias, way more than I've seen in the past in young males, which may be part of this whole syndrome. Again, COVID, vaccine, I don't know, but lots of cardiac, muscle, and electromechanical issues that seem completely disproportionate to the pre-COVID era. Again, young males, almost without exception. There's a world of electrophysiology where they go in and they map out, they put a wire into the heart and they map out where the abnormal rhythm is coming from, and then they burn that area to try to take it away so it doesn't cause this abnormal source of a problematic rhythm. I've seen more. I bet you, I've not seen it in the medical literature, but I bet you that the electrophysiologists are seeing way more of this than they have in the past. And of course, POTS syndrome. My friend Heather McDonald passed out, fractured his skull. It seems that Bob Saget had the same syndrome. Now, he had COVID a few weeks before, could have been from COVID versus the vaccine. He also had the vaccine. I don't know. But if young person, get the vaccine, fainting, cardiac arrhythmias, myocarditis, pericarditis, fatigue, much like from long COVID, we're seeing it from the vaccine too. Again, what is that incidence? I'm not saying I'm not saying it's common. I'm not saying you should be afraid of it. I'm saying, is it more common than the complications of COVID itself? That is the question that needs to be answered. And that was not answered by the Florida Surgeon General's paper. That's some of the criticism. I tweeted his response and some of the critiques. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll find them. They were across the weekend. I tweeted those things, and they were very good. They were very thoughtful, and both sides were reasonable, discussing science the way we always have. Nothing different than usual. We just back and forth, criticize each other. Look, Karl Popper really, as a famous philosopher, that pointed out that disproving is what science is all about. It has to be theories that can be disproven. That's at their basis. And it's our job to try to disprove them until they stand up to that scrutiny, and then we declare them a theory, not a fact, a theory. We're always trying to get as close to the truth as possible. Let me briefly, before I go to calls, look at what's going on here. Yeah, somebody says Google die suddenly. Yes, we discussed this with Ed Dowd. If you want to see the, was it from 2 weeks ago, Caleb?
Yeah, I think it was actually.
There it is. There's the
last week. I can find it, but it's on the website. They can find it easily.
So this is the analysis I put up of Dr. Kristen Pathangian. Am I saying that right? And it was a good one. It's a good thread. And then the next morning, I also retweeted the Florida Surgeon General. He responded to it with another long thread that was quite well thought out, quite good. And so what do we know? We don't know yet. This is how science works. We don't know for sure yet. We're trying to figure it out. In the meantime, the standard of care remains the standard of care, but may not stay the standard of care. It may be different for young males. Many countries right now are taking it away from young people because Omicron is less risky and better immunity than the vaccine. So lots of countries are following suit with these concerns, taking away the mRNA for young people. I'm laughing, Susan, because our friend, I'm blanking. Shoot, she absolutely shut my brain off. Kat Timpf tweeted me something very important about Teen Mom.
What?
I can't repeat it because I don't want to divulge. She knows everything that's going on with the Teen Mom women before anybody else does. So I don't want to. So she just sent something to me. All right, let's take your call.
Oh, I thought she put it on Twitter.
No. She texted me with it. Oh my God, she's freaked out.
Said tweet.
I'm sorry. Let's get.
Teen Mom.
Yes, that's coming up. Let's see. That is Brandon in here. Yep, I'm getting Brandon here.
Brandon,
give you a second.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
What's going on?
Well, tested positive for COVID this morning.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
Good times.
Yep. Good times. The funny part about it is, contacted the doctor, and they gave me normal medication, albuterol.
Yeah.
Basically Mucinex,
Mm-hmm.
a nasal spray, anti-cough,
Mm-hmm.
and it works great.
Yeah, that's what I used. It was good.
Yeah, that's
tons better. Why are they not doing that?
No, they are. People are, particularly for young people, because it tends up being like a cold or a bronchitis. So here's here's the other things they would do. Sometimes they're using Zithromax, which again we don't know what the hell that's doing, but people are using it. People are also using inhaled corticosteroids. Okay, so it's another inhaler other than the beta 2 agent, which you got. Both are fine. Right. They're also using Decadron. And they're using Paxlovid. And there was a big study on molnupiravir, which is another antiviral like Paxlovid. Did not look so great. That study did not make molnupiravir look good. The previous data was much better.
Paxlovid they're saying for more
sick, older and sicker.
I took
or if you're obese or something.
Older and sicker.
Yeah, I took this. Right now I'm 42, so
yeah.
But I was just impressed that it's like, oh, this works really well. Why haven't they been doing this all along?
They have. But again, if they just talked about simple measures, it wouldn't keep the panic going, Brandon. We got to worry about. Yeah, we have to worry about monkeypox if something simple like an inhaled beta 2 agent works for this.
You know what
right? I've been listening to you, Dr. Drew and Adam, forever. So since you basically first started. So I've been listening to this whole thing. They're still pushing me to get a vaccine.
Oh,
and I won't do it.
Not now. Even the CDC says wait 3 or 4 months. So at least do that.
Definitely now, but even before that, I've had 2 AFib disasters in the last 2 years.
Uh-oh.
I don't want to trust it.
Had you had any vaccine?
No.
All right. So you're in a special category, right? You already have an arrhythmic problem, atrial fibrillation, which is another abnormal rhythm of the atria in the heart, causes strokes and things. It's a serious thing in a young person. And
is there anything he should worry about when he has COVID because of that?
Yes and no. The yes is, if I were taking care of him, I would worry about it because thrombogenesis is the most serious problem with COVID. Again, the lining of our arteries and the platelet lipid system interact with the macrophages and are causing clots. And if you have atrial fibrillation, it seems to me it might be more risky than usual. So make sure that you're in the sinus rhythm. That, if you're on some medication to maintain it as such, make sure you take that medication.
You know what I find fascinating is when people get like COVID or a head cold or whatever, they don't take anything. They just tough it out and or they don't try to dry up their sinuses and stop the cough, and they never know what to do.
You're right. I mean, look, the inhalers are very effective.
Like
right?
I like Dimetapp. Like
Dimetapp
Mucinex.
is very
just
Mucinex.
Dry yourself up.
Mucinex is not a drying agent; it's a thinning agent.
Right,
and
because
so,
it does really get snotty in there.
But because drying can actually sometimes make sinusitis worse, it's actually not that routine to be using it if you have a stuffy nose. But I'll tell you what, hot showers work. That's something that doctors never tell you. Hot
or
showers.
A humidifier, hot showers. These things work like a son of a bitch. We'll get Laura in here. I like Dimetapp.
And I know Susan likes Dimetapp, but she takes it all the time, even when
children's Dimetapp. So
she drinks.
I don't drink it all the time. Shut up.
You got to listen to me. Who knows what I might say?
God. Sheesh.
All right, Laura, while we're waiting for Laura, let me see what you guys are asking. Lots of good questions, I could tell. Stink Anderson, diagnosed HPV at 18. Should you still get the vaccine? I would. Personally, I know what your doctor says, but I would. Because look, we're seeing so much head and neck cancer now. It's just terrible.
Stink.
It's
stink.
all
Please
from
do it.
HPV. Like we watched Laura, I'll be right with you. Hold tight there. Susan and I watched the Doors movie over the weekend, and there's poor Val Kilmer, who's now, talks through a tracheostomy and has had head and neck cancer because of HPV. And that's it's something that can be completely avoided with a vaccine. So why would you, or at least nearly completely?
He was so good in that movie.
It made me sad. It made me sad thinking this vaccine, and people argue, this is another vaccine people argue over, and it's just so obvious that people should take it. It's
they're
really
telling
a very
like
safe
40-year-old
vaccine.
women to take it, that are single.
It's a very safe. Laura, what's going on?
Hey, Dr. Drew. It's nice to talk to you.
As well, what's happening?
I am just dumbfounded. I see a lot of specialists. I have a 4-centimeter ascending aorta aneurysm. I have stage 2 non-alcoholic liver disease. I have so much stuff.
Okay, so hold on. So hold on. How old are you?
I am 61.
Did you have hypertension, high blood pressure?
Never.
So what she's talking, maybe, Caleb, you can put up a picture of an aortic aneurysm. I'm imagining it doesn't get quite to your aortic valve, right? It's sort of above. It's in the arch, right?
It is in the arch,
yeah.
Yes.
So you can look at, or maybe you want to, Caleb, put up their aortic aneurysms, because there's different kinds. And she's talking about the more common one, which occurs, the less problematic one that occurs up on the arch. And of course, that we really don't get very worried about them until they're 5 centimeters, right?
Yes.
Right.
And I go every 6 months. I have several health issues. And during the 2 years of COVID, I had 2 adhesion removals from my abdomen from a Roux-en-Y I had in 2003.
Ugh.
I know.
So was that was the Roux-en-Y for gastric bypass kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay. So
and I did lose weight.
Right. So she had thoracic aortic aneurysm. Sorry, those are not quite right. Aortic arch aneurysm you want to look at. And she had a weight loss surgery, and there's that's the big one. And of course you can get adhesions and small bowel obstructions, what's left over after any surgery like that. And now you have aortic arch aneurysm, which is, are you on a beta blocker?
No, I'm not on any medicine at all.
We used to put people on beta blockers with that, and I always thought that was very effective. I noticed they don't do it so much anymore. Anyway, what's your question?
So I have a lot of specialists that I see because of all these different things, and never, not once, did any of them suggest that I get a COVID vaccine. Not one, which I wouldn't have.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Did they? If you asked, would they have said don't take it?
I don't know. I never asked because I was never going to take it.
Are you still obese, or is your weight down now?
My weight is down now, and I
You
did have COVID.
you mentioned that you had non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Why is that continuing if your weight's down?
I don't know. They did
Biopsy?
a biopsy, and it came back that's what it was.
Crazy. Well, maybe more weight loss just to try to get that, better. I don't know. Obviously I don't know you, but I'm just thinking out loud. But so yeah, when did you have COVID?
I had COVID in November. We had a super spreader event for my granddaughter's 5th birthday.
Yeah.
And someone that had been exposed came, and then literally the entire family came down with COVID within the week.
So
my
hold on.
doctor.
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Kayla put a picture of an aorta up there, and the arch, the curvature part is where she has an aneurysm, meaning it's a weakening and swelling like a bleb in a tire, that kind of thing, and it can blow. These can blow, and that's why they're dangerous. But they don't really get dangerous till they're about 5 centimeters. The real problem with them is repairing them. And I don't want to scare you, but I'm going to say this out loud. It's one of the biggest operations you can have. It's a huge operation. And so, we don't like to repair them unless we have to, but they're usually successful, but it's a big operation.
Yeah, because I asked my, I go to the UPMC aorta.
Mm-hmm.
They have an aorta aneurysm clinic. And I was like, well, why can't we just get this done now? And he was like, well, no, not yours.
Not anybody's.
Not yours.
Not anybody's till you have to. Trust me. All right. So the question for me is what? Should you?
Well, it wasn't really a question. All of my doctors did think that if I got COVID, I would end up in the hospital.
Yes.
And so I took the eye medicine that we can't speak about.
Right.
And literally within, I never got really sick. I did have more gastric issues than. I lost my taste and smell for about 7 months.
Yep.
I had a cough the first day, chills first day. I started that the first day along with all of the supplements that the FLCCC recommends. And I was negative in 7 days.
Well, good. I'm guessing this was Omicron because that had a lot of GI stuff, and that was coming in right there in November, December. And good. I mean, it's great. There was nothing much else to do by the way then. I mean, there was not a lot of really much else. I mean, Paxlovid is what really changed the game. And I don't think anybody would have given you that at that point. People are on the thank you, Laura. People are on the Restream talking about weight loss and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Yes, she knows that. She knows it, believe me. And sometimes things like diabetes and liver inflammation persist even when you correct everything metabolically, which is one of the odd, I don't think I fully understand that. It's one of the odd things about both those conditions. Okay, let me go over to the Rumble rants where I've been ignoring you guys. I apologize. Susan, have you been over there at all?
Yeah, I'm watching them.
Anything I should be? They're going on about fake news. I'm not quite sure what's the fake news.
No.
You're not watching them?
A little bit.
And any questions?
They're talking about a girl with big boobs on. Yeah.
So
Okay, keep
predictable.
moving.
It's funny. I'm not seeing that, and I'm scrolling through the whole thing. So why did you pick up on that?
Because I saw what they said.
Oh, maybe you can't block
They
them.
like the people on the Twitter spaces, so.
Okay, good. Born with a large aorta, I think his drug use throughout his life made it worse. Could be. Yep, that's true. And I don't know about born with a large aorta. That sounds very weird. Okay, let me go back to your call. Hey, you know what? Let's do this. Caleb, maybe we'll take a little break now since we're right up against it. And then I'll get back to the request for callers. We have plenty of hands up. I'm going to try to get to all of you guys. And again, what you do is you just request to come up, and I'll bring you up sort of one at a time, just like we did with Laura, and give you a chance to talk. But recognize that if you do come up, you're streaming out on multiple platforms. It's not just on YouTube, and it's not just on Twitter. So thank you for being here on Twitter Spaces. And if you have other topics you want me to talk about, we can get further into the Florida Department of Health challenge to the vaccine mandates. And I want to talk a little bit more, if I remember here, I'm going to write it down, my evolution and what it means to be changing your opinions about things like COVID and vaccines and Paxlovid. It's an evolving process. Back up to this. Consumer price index yet again going up, stock market in turmoil. What's our government doing to quell the surge of inflation that is gutting American families. Oh yeah, they're spending more money and adding to the burden. Don't bury your head in the sand while your savings get decimated. It's time to do something about this. Visit birchgold.com/Drew. Now, I don't give investment advice, but you can visit birchgold, BIRCH, gold.com/Drew. Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on protecting your savings with gold in a tax-sheltered account. Great people with almost 20 years of experience converting IRAs and 401ks into precious metals IRAs. Don't let your savings lose value. Visit birchgold.com/Drew and claim your free, no obligation info kit from Birch Gold. You can own physical gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account, and Birch Gold will help you do it. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and thousands of satisfied customers. Check them out now. Visit birchgold.com/Drew and secure your future with gold. Do it now. For a long time, I've been talking about the holy grail of skincare, Genucel, and the amazing results that both Susan and I have seen. I'm a big fan of Genucel's Silky Smooth XV. It's a moisturizer soaked right into my skin instantly, and with its immediate effects, I saw fine lines and wrinkles visibly disappear within 12 hours. Susan loves Genucel's vitamin C serum, infused with the purest vitamin C, absorbs to the deepest layer of the skin thanks to Genucel's proprietary skincare technology.
I am a snob when it comes to using products on my face. The dermatologist makes a ton of money from me. But when I was introduced to Genucel, I was so happy because it's so affordable and it works great. I was introduced to the Ultra Retinol Cream, which I love at night. All the eye creams are amazing. People notice my skin all the time, and I'm so excited because it's actually working.
And right now, Genucel has bundled my favorite products and Susan's for you to try today for up to 60% off retail pricing. That's right. Save up to 60% on my favorite Genucel products today. Just go to genucel.com/Drew to see what's in our bundles and receive an extra 10% off at checkout when you enroll in their personal concierge at checkout. That again is genucel.com/Drew, GENUCEL.com/DREW. Well, thank you all. We received a very kind testimonial on Genucel. Caleb, you alerted me to that. Do you want to tell people what the content? Yeah.
I didn't have it prepped for the screen. Oops.
No, you don't have to put it on the screen. I'm just saying it was very nice.
Very positive.
So go ahead. Very positive. So people are having good results. They like that product, and we do too. So nice that we can stand behind it. So we appreciate you supporting that.
Yeah, and we have some great packages. So like you get the whole, combination of things that Drew and I like. And if you go to that, genucel.com/Dr. Drew, you'll see our private picks, and they're 50% off. So if you want, you can get both packages and have it all.
We all of a sudden have some very effective trolls on Restream, and so it's not meant for your balls, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I don't know. You might be able to use some of it on your balls. I would probably recommend maybe the XV cream or
I hope you guys,
this cream can go anywhere.
But Drew. I just hope you trolls know my tendency is to lean into you guys.
Some people's balls are dry, so it's good for that. But I wouldn't put the vitamin C serum or the retinol there or the hyaluronic acid. But the creams are very good for all skin.
Yep, I agree.
I actually rub it everywhere. I do my arms. I do my legs.
Those of you who are trolls, have at it. So anyway,
spread it around.
Yeah. So people are also catching up with the fact that Angela Lansbury passed away at the age of 96. Really a legend. If you look at her career, you're going to be shocked at how many amazing things she was involved with. Dame. I guess she's a dame in the British hierarchy. All right. And what are you laughing about, Susan?
Jeb's going to buy some for his balls.
Good. Thank you for that. So let's get back to calls. I appreciate you guys being there, and we will try to get some calls here. Here we go. This is Mark. And let's see what Mark wants to ask us about. And again, while Mark is loading up here, I'm looking at you guys on the Restream. No.
Yeah, there's a little lag, but
I am not seeing the data from Stabel Ben. Sorry.
But again, he went away.
Okay. But I would urge you to listen to Ed Dowd, whom I will tell you when that is from Wednesday. I don't think it was last week. I think it was the week before, wasn't it? Who do we have last week? Give me 1 second. Yeah, we had Jim Thorpe last week, who also, Caleb, I would think people were very moved by him as well. Boys, Ed Dow was 3 weeks ago.
that was a killer show. And he's not a doctor,
Yeah.
he's more a statistician.
He was the 21st of September. He's an analyst. He's a financial guy, and he's used to analyzing systems. And
YouTube is letting us keep it up, and we're actually getting ratings on it.
Well, he's just reporting the excess deaths. Now, he doesn't.
But usually they'd find something wrong with it and cut it off before we made any money.
So here's a great example of how we need to evolve scientifically. There's no question that there are excess deaths, especially in a window when we expect to see, after there's excess deaths from a pandemic, almost without exception, what has followed is a period of time where there's diminished deaths for a period of time, because the older people that were going to die died sooner, and so that excess death curve drops down. Now it's gone up. Now the question is that related to fentanyl? Is that related to suicide and depression? Is that related to something yet unidentified? We don't know. And so before everyone jumps to any conclusions, why that is not the absolute priority of most Western governments, all the governments, I don't understand. I just don't get it. They should be studying the shit out of that to figure out why people are dying at the same rate as during the pandemic, when the pandemic has gone all the way down to an endemic level. It does not appear to be COVID infection related. Now, some of it may be. The question is how much, and why are we saying it's endemic if indeed we still have excess deaths? So there we go. Let's try to get...
Here's a question on Rumble from IED.
Go ahead.
We're not talking about balls or boobs.
Thank you.
There.
Good.
Hey, Drew, is it true that SARS-CoV-2 virus would need to be isolated to produce an effective vaccine?
Yes. I'm not quite sure what's in that question. I mean, at least some parts of it have to be. You don't necessarily grow the virus, but you have to sequence parts of it. So somebody was taking issue, I think, on the Restream with me calling any shot to stimulate the immune system a vaccine. That is a vaccine. Let's see what say dictionary.com. So I'm going to say as a convention, anything that stimulates the immune system to fight a future infection, I'm calling that a vaccine. I'm calling it that. Whether it's done with mRNA or a protein or whole virus or parts of viruses, I don't care. If it's stimulating a B-cell response and then a cellular immunity left in reserve, that's all I am concerned about. I'm calling that a vaccine. Here it is. Any preventative measure used to stimulate the immune response against a specific disease. That's it. That's it. Period. Any measure. Not something that prevents infection, not something that prevents severe disease, not something that prevents transmission. Anything that's used to stimulate the body's immune response. This is dictionary.com. So that has been my definition since I was in medical school. Maybe others have other definitions, but that has never been another definition for me. It's always been quite clear on that. Yes, I call flu shots flu vaccines 100%. They are vaccines stimulating the immune response to a future pathogen. Whether or not that pathogen actually develops the way we predict it, different story. We're trying to predict a specific illness and an immune response to it. That's a vaccine. In fact, Susan, we have to get our flu vaccines today.
Oh.
Yeah, I've got them in the refrigerator
Can't
downstairs. Douglas can give me mine. I train my sons to give them to me.
I won't do it.
You won't know. She won't do it to me.
I can't do it.
Look, Sally, salty methods. We just put the vaccine definition from dictionary.com on the screen. That's the definition. Period. End of story. There it is. We're going to, even if you want to use another definition for our convention, we are going to use this one from now on. No more debates. So the other thing was there's this thing flying around Twitter right now where my son put out a tweet
when he was working with us.
When he was working with me on social media.
Of the pandemic.
He got me in trouble with the vaccines being mandated by other countries, but I still thought that was interesting.
Well, we were doing Fox News every night, so we were kind of
Fox 11 here in Los Angeles. Yeah, not
don't
Fox
say
News.
Fox News.
Yeah.
No. And he was helping us with our social media because we were all kind of
busy,
stuck here during the pandemic. So he was working for us.
Yeah.
But man, he could put out some great tweets.
Yeah.
Because I would put a tweet out and I'd make a typo and I'd take it down and then they'd call it the Streisand effect. Oh, they took it down. I was like, no, I wrote something incorrectly. I don't want it. And they have a new thing on Twitter now where you can pay money to be able to fix your tweets without having to pull them down.
Is that right?
Yeah, I just saw that.
Crazy.
Anyways, my problem is I have horrible typing skills and I always would make a typo. And then people would make fun of me because of that. So we had him do it for a while and then it got us into some trouble.
Oh my gosh.
It was awesome though.
So he put one up
it.
that's circulating around right now. I'm looking for it. It essentially was that vaccines are effective and help prevent transmission and everyone should get one. It was something like that. And I knew it wasn't my words. I could tell it wasn't here. All the COVID vaccines are safe. They're effective. They're going to help you and the people around you from further spread. More specifically, the vaccines will help reduce the risk of future mutations by suppressing replication of the virus.
Which we believed at that time.
Which was one of my concerns at the time. That was something I really thought I saw that. Well, everything we had led us to believe that was the case. It took a while before that evolved to something else. So, and also there is a video of me early on sort of saying something like that.
Can you turn the mic towards your face?
And then later me talking to Heather McDonald after her fall from the vaccine, me talking to Tracy Haig and her concerns about males.
Right. But at the time, like we knew Sam Shocker's brother, who was like hospitalized and lost a lung and
died of COVID.
So we were kind of in that mode, trying to avoid that.
Well, look, there was a lot going on. The government was misrepresenting the risks. They were using fear tactics intentionally. We didn't know that. There was a lot of moving parts going on, and we were all trying to figure things out. If you remember, we thought what we were doing here was just sort of every day trying to help people make sense of this, because none of it was making sense to me. Now a clearer picture is starting to evolve. And in fact, it's something that did not happen on this show. I spoke to a White House official who was in the White House during the initial phases of lockdown recommendations, and he was telling me that there were people like himself raising their hand and going, where are you getting this lockdown stuff from? Where did this 6 feet social distancing come from? This doesn't exist. Why are you doing this? And he said these people were so rigid in their thinking. He said they would turn beet red with rage if you raised any issues with them. And he said they were all risk aversive, extremely fearful of vaccines, of infections. And it was their own bias. And then, of course, the Chinese policies that they were persuaded by, that we were all victimized by. And then Trump derangement syndrome. Places like California, if Trump said, don't close the schools, they close the schools. And so you add those things together, and that's sort of what we were going through. In any event, at the time, it was not that clear. If you look at me across time, my ideas change, my position change. I suspect if you talk to me a year from now, I'll have even different ideas. I don't know. I should be clearer about young males and the vaccine. I should be clearer about why we're having excess deaths. We should know that by then. I don't know it now, which is why I try not to be overly hubristic in my position. I'm trying to keep equal footing and to see where this goes, because we just don't know for sure yet. This is somebody who goes by Thumper.
Keeps getting worse.
Well, there's a lot going on, and we know they've obscured data from us. We know they've used behavioral techniques to distort our emotions and try to muscle compliance. We know we have all been behaving like sheep, and we've got the wolves on our heels now, and we have to figure out what they're up to and what the reality is. Did I just lose him too? No, Thumper. What's going on? Yep.
Thumper.
Mm-hmm. We'll give him a second to come in. There he is. Thumper, what's up?
Hi, Hitler. Here's my struggle.
Hey, Hitler.
So
this is a greeting from your mom's house, but yes, go ahead.
Hey, mommies.
Hey, mommies.
So I was just at the doctor yesterday, and I got what is now a routine chest X-ray for me. Because I was previously tested positive for TB.
So you had a skin test tested positive, or you had a blood test?
I had a blood test that came out positive for a pre-employment screening.
Okay. Were you traveling in Asia or anything, or Central America? Anything?
No.
Huh.
I work in healthcare.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So
there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm an EMT. By trade.
Okay.
So probably one of these transients. So I've been getting these chest X-rays. I started last year. I got a first one. That came back negative. See, I got I guess I must have gotten it. I never even knew I had it. I had COVID, didn't get vaccinated. This was before that, and then that whipped my ass for about 5 days. But this recent one, this is the second chest X-ray I got. This wasn't for a TB test, but is because I was having chest pain and a pain in like an upper accessory muscle in my back. I went to the doctor because it was like the first time I've ever experienced like a chest pain. It was like a pinpoint in my chest that went to the back.
Got it.
They did the scan again, and they said that I had hyperextended my lungs.
Hyperextended your lungs. What are they talking about? What does that mean? What a weird statement. Hyperextended. You mean, do they mean you had a pneumothorax or something?
No, my doctor said that I thought, I don't know, I was hoping it wasn't like a tumor or something. That's why I got the chest X-ray. But they came back. She just said that I essentially had hyperextended my lungs, referred me to a cardiologist, and if that doesn't go through, a pulmonologist. But what noticed to me is that she said it was no different than the chest X-ray I had a year ago, which means they must have been hyperextended then. I don't know.
She mean hyperinflated?
Hyperinflated, possibly.
Okay. Hyperinflated makes sense. Now, hyperextended is like that's a muscle kind of, word, hyperextension. But hyperinflation means like air trapping. Do you have chronic bronchitis or anything of that sort?
No, I've never had any lung issues or like I've never had any breathing issues, not even as a child or anything.
Were your diaphragms flattened? Is that what they're talking about?
They didn't mention the diaphragm.
Huh. Weird. That's all very weird.
I mean,
and then they sent you to a cardiologist after telling you there's a lung problem? Extra weird.
Just because of the chest pain. Then they said they would want to do a pulmonologist.
I would go well, okay. But I mean, I would definitely see the pulmonologist. And have you had the vaccine?
No, I haven't.
Okay. And you've had COVID?
I've had COVID. Like it hit me pretty hard, but I still decided not to get it. Yeah, this is before. Must have been back in 2020.
Okay. And did you have a lot of pulmonary symptoms?
July. Yeah, I have a coughing. I wasn't short of breath or anything. Just just general exhaustion. I believe I had long COVID, a lot of brain fog.
Yeah. That was fun. That was so fun.
But on top of that, I was kind of heavily smoking back then. Well, I don't smoke tobacco, but I'd smoke like marijuana and
okay. It's almost impossible to smoke a lot of weed and not get chronic bronchitis. So that's probably what that hyperinflation is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The main method is like bong rips, like out of a water.
Still, it's very irritating to the lungs, and it probably. I mean, I don't know how many years you did it, but my bet it'd be mostly reversible. But I bet that's it.
Oh, I should have told you. I'm 27. I've been smoking for over 10 years. I thought that the hyperinflation that you're speaking to, I thought that maybe it was because of like, the big draws that I take for, so many times.
No, it's air trapping. It's air gets trapped in there. It can't come out. The airways collapse. And that causes the hyperinflation. So yeah, I definitely would see a pulmonologist. They probably put you on some steroid inhaler and that kind of thing. And knock off the weed. That would be a good idea. And
Sober October.
Yeah, good time, my friend. And and I seen the cardiologist. Whatever. But I'm glad you're taking care of yourself. And thank you for the work as an EMT. I'm so grateful for people that do that work. And thank you for the call. This is Hackett's. I'm not sure is there a name associated with that?
Yeah, but
there you are.
We'll just go by Hackett's.
Fair enough.
Got a question, Dr. Drew.
Yeah, buddy.
Have you heard of or have you seen the movie A Second Opinion?
No.
Or Safe and Effective, A Second Opinion. I'm just curious if you've seen it.
What is it?
It's just about some of the adverse reactions people have claimed to had from the vaccine and just going over the numbers.
Safe and effective. And what's the last part? Safe and effective what?
a second opinion.
A second opinion. I will look at that. Here's the deal. There is no doubt that this vaccine has, I mean, I don't see how anybody can deny the fact that this vaccine has more side effects than most vaccines and more brutal side effects than most vaccines. That just is so. The question that needs to be answered is, at what point is it worse than the risk of COVID? And just people seem unwilling to do that study. I can't understand it. That's the number one question of the day. What's worse? Because we know it doesn't prevent transmission. It doesn't prevent infection. So it's not that. We're trying to prevent serious complications. So what are the serious complications rate of COVID versus the serious complication rates of vaccine for every sex and age group? Why can't we do those studies? Seems so simple to me, and yet we don't do it. So I will watch that. I will take a look at that video.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So without any long-term data, I was always puzzled why. So I'm from Canada.
Yeah.
And pretty much every doctor here has been and still is pushing the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Without any long-term data, what I don't understand is why they're pushing it so hard, where there's not even the ability to question it. And I'm in Canada, so it is very different from where you are.
I think,
as a doctor, what's your take on that? Like, why the big push? Why was there not like a pause and let people kind of had that conversation and not be chastised for it? Thank you, Dr. Drew.
I don't understand it myself. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. It's super clear that if you're over 65 years of age, particularly over 75 years of age, there's great benefit. There is great benefit. My patients in those age groups, vaxxed to the hilt. I did wait on the Omicron until we had some human experience with it, the bivalent vaccine, just to be sure. But now my patients are all getting vaxxed up, and none of them are getting COVID. Well, I shouldn't say that. Those that have gotten COVID, it was rather mild, though I have done a bit of Paxlovid prescribing. And people aren't being hospitalized. People aren't getting that sick. That is just my experience flat across the board. Under the age of 50, people aren't getting that sick without the vaccine. Now, a lot of them had a primary series. So the question is, is there some sort of, Monica Gandhi would say that there's some cellular immunity, some T-cell immunity left behind that is really helping us. So Omicron does not tend to be a bad actor. And there are various variants coming our way, but I think they're going to be all kind of the same in terms of their virulence. I think there's still a hysteria. I think people are so fearful of backing away from their original sort of feelings about this thing that it was just as to quote Kanye, DEFCON 4. They're absolutely going crazy about this.
True.
What's that?
I think you mean
DEFCON
4.
No, I said DEFCON intentionally. I don't want to get into the fact that Kanye said DEFCON. I don't know what that meant, but I'm using DEFCON. Thank you. I don't know. I don't know why we can't be more nuanced with this. It is certainly time to do so. I saw, Dr. Gorski, who's a belligerent anti-vaxxer. So he's been attacked by the anti-vaxxers very unfairly over the years. And so he has this very defensive position on the vaccines. And he had tweeted something a couple of days ago that I was going to really respond to. He said, if you're not anti-vaccine, tell me which vaccines you support. Just tell me the ones you support. And I thought, I support all of them for particular risk groups at particular ages. I don't give the shingles vaccine to a 6-year-old. I don't give yellow fever vaccine to someone who's not traveling to a region where they're going to get yellow fever. I don't give the Prevnar Pneumovax vaccine to a 12-year-old. I don't give the HPV vaccine to an 85-year-old, but I use all those vaccines. So it's not all vaccines all the time in every age group in all situations. It's never that. And why can't we do that with the COVID vaccine? Why can't we say, hey, it's great over 65, 23-year-old athlete. I'm not sure. Let's see if that's appropriate for them. Let's get that data right. We do that with every vaccine. There is not a vaccine that doesn't have a particular age window, risk category, sex category. I mean, it's a travel category. It's always something, exposure category. That's where the vaccines are used. So it's not all vaccines, all circumstances, no matter what, no questions asked. We figure out where to best use them to have the best effect with the least risk. The key is with the least risk. And we have been tolerating way more risk than usual. We really have. Yeah, Renal B is mentioning on Rumble that the Pfizer, one of the Pfizer representatives admitted that they had no data on the transmissibility of the virus after the vaccine. And guess what? That should have been obvious to everyone, right? We knew they didn't take people and see if they were infectious. Did anybody see any data like that ever? It's unethical to do that, for that matter. They thought at the time that they were squashing the virus and the viral replication, therefore there would not be any transmission. Turned out not to be true. But they did not test transmissibility. And this is the key, and this is what the Dutch government official was pointing out. All of the mandate policies and all of the vaccine passports and the grotesque discrimination that came out of that was all on the belief that this virus was not transmitted after the vaccine. That was the entire justification for it. And it was wrong. Somebody needs to apologize. Somebody needs to apologize. I don't know. Let's see. Let's get Dan up here. Let's see what Dan wants to ask us. Ashley thinks I should be censored. Look, I use the vaccine. I use it in certain age groups. I use Paxlovid all over the place. And we know over 65, it clearly is beneficial. Under 65, we don't know what we're doing. So it's just, it may not be the standard of care, but it is the data right now. All right, Dan, your hand is up. I see you. You have to unmute yourself. Apologize.
Yeah, hello.
Hey there.
So I've got one question for you.
Yes, buddy.
Does pneumonia cause a high or a low spike in hemoglobin?
Does pneumonia cause a spike? Sometimes neither.
A high or low,
spike
or a low spike?
If you become hypoxemic, and it takes many days for that to develop, we are severely hypoxemic. Well, in my experience, it actually goes down a little bit, because when you're really sick with pneumonia, the bone marrow gets suppressed, even though you might be hypoxemic, which is stimulating erythropoietin, which is your bone marrow trying to push out more red cells. So I would say there's no characteristic way that the hemoglobin goes with pneumonia. And by the way, if it's a short-lived pneumonia, nothing changes.
So what's worse, high hemoglobin or low hemoglobin?
It depends on the setting. With hypercoagulability that COVID caused, I'd be worried about high hemoglobin. In the setting of an acute illness, we worry about low hemoglobin, because people are anemic. They can't fight the illness as well.
So could hemoglobin not be the yin and yang of the COVID-19 vaccines?
No, I don't think hemoglobin in any way is... Hemoglobin, again, let's be clear. Hemoglobin is just the hemoglobin content in red blood cells. It's a marker for what's called hematocrit, which is the amount of red blood cells per unit volume. And I don't think it really has any real relevance in this, I'm afraid. But I'm open to it. If you see some data that something suggests otherwise, I will take a look. Aaron, let's get you up here. Many hands up. I'll try to get to as many of you guys as I possibly can. Appreciate the questions. Aaron, what's going on there? Safe and effective, a second opinion. Look at that. Hi, Aaron. What's up?
Hi, Dr. Drew. So I want to thank you for all you do. You just have such a rational approach, and I really appreciate it. Today, I am looking for some advice.
Okay.
I have a 7-year-old son, and he is in a ninjutsu class, and he's been taking classes at the same dojo since before he turned 4.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got, a long time in there. But for whatever reason, they are still masking the kids all the time. They're still taking their temperatures, and the kids are running around, doing exercise with masks on, and it just kills me. And one of the instructors is actually the sensei's daughter who's probably like 17, 18, somewhere around there. And the other day she was just berating one of the kids for having his mask down under his nose and actually told him that if you need to breathe, you need to go outside.
Oh my God. So why don't you pull the dojo aside and have a conversation? My bet is that there's a lawyer involved here. At this point now, when people are irrational around their COVID policies, there's a lawyer lurking in the background telling them that if somebody gets sick and sues them and they haven't looked like they've done everything possible, they could be vulnerable. That's my bet.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out a good way to go about it.
I pull him aside. Pull him aside.
Alienate, but yeah.
Pull him aside. I mean, I wouldn't come down on the 17-year-old. She's as we've harmed her as much as anybody with all this nonsense. But I would pull the guy aside and say, hey, what are we doing here? And if it's an attorney, maybe you ought to have people sign something. Maybe there's some other way. If he's an attorney. No. I'm saying, what schools are doing now, what private institutions are doing around COVID, when they do stuff that is insane. I've been looking at this kind of carefully because I couldn't understand it. Like, what are you doing? Every one of them so far has said, well, we have an attorney that said if we're not doing everything we possibly could do, we're going to be exposed. There are some people that are, kind of crazy out there and will take, action.
Is there a competitive company you can go to, another place that doesn't do that?
No, they've been with them for years.
I know. It's hard because the kids are so married to it.
I know. And I just think bring them aside and say, hey, how about we'll all sign a waiver, where we exonerate you from any responsibility. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Are there any particular studies that talk about
kids?
Follow kids and masking.
Oh my God! Follow Vinay Prasad. We're going to talk to him next week. Yeah. He goes crazy on this.
We've talked about the mental health problems that are coming from that, right?
But she needs data. Well. If you follow his threads, go back a few weeks. He has tons of stuff in there in his Twitter thread. Okay. Vinay Prasad, Vinay Prasad.
He has a podcast too.
Yep, it's with ZDogg, and they're very good. And we're going to talk to him in a week or so. Here's somebody speaking to me in French.
I'm just so glad my kids are 30. Okay. I mean, they're screwed up enough already. So.
Et oui, je connais un jeune homme de 22 ans qui est décédé après vaccination en Angleterre d'une rupture d'aneurysm. So here, that's saying that there's a young 22-year-old who had an aneurysm rupture after a vaccine. That's weird. C'est an aneurysm de cœur or de cerveau? That's the question. Is it a heart or brain? Let me know. Because brain, I would be more likely to blame something like a vaccine than I would the heart aneurysm. That sounds more like a congenital problem in that age group. The World Council for Health called for suspension of mRNA. Yeah, but they were sort of an organization that was already kind of inclined that way. So let's see if we get more of the traditional organizations to really get on it. I'm just looking here. Sorry, you guys. I'm taking a second to look at the restream. I can tell when we've got an hour. CART, what am I making excuses about? Jess, we went into the clot thing in a previous interview. World Council, suspension of mRNA. Okay. Yeah. Somebody's saying he was in the Navy and he got 11 shots in 15 minutes and also got the smallpox vaccine.
And then they let him in.
Yeah. Well, no, and then he was fine. Right. Young people, you can do a lot too.
You got to be tough. You want to get into the Navy.
Europe and Prague, never see masks. Good. Let's go to Prague, Susan. I went home.
I want to go to Prague.
Vermont saw tons of masks. Yes.
Drew, this one sounds unusual because this doesn't sound like what you had said. That you had said before that it's healthy to jog with a mask on.
No, I wouldn't say it's healthy, and I wouldn't recommend it. I've said it doesn't really, unless you're doing a marathon or something, then yes. But if you're just jogging or walking
it's like
outside,
jogging in high altitude.
It makes 0 sense. It makes 0 sense. It does not transmit outdoors. And one of the enduring memories I have that is seared into my memory when I was running down here outside of our house, and I was about a mile away, and I walked by an old man outdoors with a surgical mask on, also not doing anything. Surgical masks don't work. He recoiled from me running down the street like I was on fire. I will never forget it.
The only good thing about jogging with a mask on is if you're training to go to high altitude to do a long distance run, because it's like it simulates the low oxygen levels in
It doesn't. It changes. It concentrates the CO2 right here, so you're never really able to completely blow off the CO2, which is the bigger problem.
I mean, that's what they used to do for the ice skaters. They have them skate with a mask on.
Really? That seems silly to
before
me.
they went to Colorado Springs.
That seems silly to me. Okay, 22 ans.
I don't know if it worked, but.
Qui est étudiant en Angleterre, avoir son diplôme, il faisait un tour de moto after des copains le matin, ses amis en retour de moto. Yeah, again, you're not telling me, did he die from a brain aneurysm, the cerveau, ou dans le corps? It was a heart or brain. Okay, take another call. Bonjour. Let's talk to Ben here. Howard Stern hated the government, specifically the FCC, when he was up and coming. Now he kisses their butt. That's true. Interesting. It's interesting how people have just changed their thing. When you've always been the same. Thank you for talking about this. The government needs to stay out of my medical records. None of their business. That's true. Ben, unmute your mic there.
Hey, Dr. Drew, how are you?
What's happening?
So your opinion, this, everything I think that we've seen is kind of crazy.
Yes.
I think today I've seen that Moderna, in fact, released that they are going to be coming up with an mRNA shot to help cure the clots and cardiovascular issues.
Interesting.
Potentially.
That's interesting. That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. Yeah.
But being a doctor, so my question is this. I think many people, I always try and speak for myself, but I think in this instance, I'm speaking for many others. I never look twice at vaccines or medications or big pharma. Now I look at everything with a microscope.
Yeah. You're like our buddy.
Have major long term.
You're like our buddy Steve Kirsch, who was really changed by what he dug into, and he was always of the school of thought that we should be. Of course, you would trust what doctors and medical societies and pharmaceutical companies say, but he's gone extremely the other way. I'm telling you, the truth lies somewhere in between. If you have thoughtful people, they can sort of navigate you through it as safely as possible. But your point is, should we be trusting something like an mRNA vaccine for, say, clots associated with severe COVID?
Well, no, not even necessarily so much that. I just see the trust dwindling away.
Oh, it's gone.
With the people that were supposed to entrust those topics to.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm just wondering what the long term on this could potentially be.
I don't know. We don't know. Look, public health is toast as far as I can see. I don't know how they earn back people's trust. Pharmaceutical companies were already on the shit list, and I don't know now, how they... it's just anybody... Well, numero uno is media, right? Don't we all agree? That's where traditional media, that's where we categorically believe nothing. Are you with me on that?
Yeah, yes. Absolutely.
All right. So traditional media, I don't care which side, I don't care who's talking. No, don't believe it. So whatever they say out there on traditional media, whoever's representing what, we're going to kind of not really listen to it. So it means going in and trying to figure it out for yourself. But a lot of people aren't trained or equipped to do their own research, so to speak. So really what it's incumbent upon everybody is to find a trusted source. Back to old-fashioned days of finding a doctor you can trust and communicate with and who you believe has good judgment, who you believe has your best interest, and let him or her navigate all this stuff. Because that's what we are supposed to do. And I think that could be a good news for primary care type practitioners. We could really restore the faith through primary care, but the higher authorities are going to remain for a generation. They're going to remain highly suspect. And again, completely incapable of being trusted in the traditional media, because just by virtue of presenting messaging in the traditional media, the presumption is it's wrong, or at least a lie or a distortion or something. Okay, here's my French friend again. Il est dire qu'ils veulent nous remettre les masques en France. Oh, they're going to bring the masks back in France? Because No. I don't think so. She's saying that after 3 doses, people are still getting the illness. Yeah, but the vaccines aren't going to do anything. They aren't.
They'll still get it.
By the way, I hope your youth are out in the streets again like they were. They were demonstrating against things like mask mandates and vaccine mandates when they were clear that at their age they weren't going to be harmed by the virus.
They all died of drug abuse.
Yeah, maybe later. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap things up. I'm sorry I didn't get to
I have a very
everybody
sadistic
tonight.
way of looking at this now.
Yes, you do. Oh, wait, don't get Leopold up here. Leopold's in the queue. See what's going on with him. You owe Leopold an appearance on this show, Susan. You still do. So
I don't know. If he wants to come. I think you lost him.
Oh, no way. Really?
Eddie?
There you are. Leopold, what's going on?
When has he ever passed?
Hey, it was a long time no here. So a couple of questions for you, Dr. Drew. One is, so lots of interesting issues have occurred in the interim since we last talked.
Yes.
My nephew, who's 25, had to have emergency brain surgery for a growth that was on his cerebellum.
Mm.
And it was crazy. But one of the things that and again, it's just a empirical kind of observation. My mother-in-law also has growths in her brain, and my nephew's friend also had some brain tumor issues. Could there be any link, do you think, in your mind?
I have. Let me just say that usually, if there's something brewing, I will kind of see it, or at least I'll be thinking about it. And I've not seen anything like that. What I have been worried about is a general suppression of our immunity. I've not seen this. I'm worrying about this. A general suppression of our immunity so that our surveillance system against cancer is impaired and cancers are breaking through. And is that what the excess death thing is all about? That's what I'm worried about. I'm seeing an awful lot of cancers.
What was on his cerebellum?
It was a growth, and the weird thing was
Like a arachnoid cyst, or like a growth, or
what's the name of it? You need the name of it.
Oh, Dr. Drew, I saw the name of it, and it's something plasty or something. It's a long name, and I can't remember it.
It's sort of the three things is an arachnoid cyst, which is totally benign, a meningioma, which keeps growing, they have to come out, or something like a medullary neuroblastoma or something, or
that blastoma, the last one you said.
Yeah, do they have to remove it?
Yeah,
they did.
Oh, they did.
They literally found it. It was weird. He had he felt it was during the heat wave, and the doctors thought that he had like heat stroke or heat stress because he was kind of babbling.
Was he like falling down?
Yeah, he got confused.
He got confused. Yeah, he was confused, right? And it was through the persistence of my sister, who said, we ought to have a CAT scan done, and thankfully the doctor agreed to it.
Oh, good.
And they found it, and literally the next day,
they don't waste
he was
time.
in brain surgery. Yeah, they didn't
How old
waste.
is he?
They said 25.
Oh my gosh.
That's kind of when that's when that stuff comes on. Unfortunately, that's when that comes.
I'm so sorry, Leopold. So it's so disconcerting.
There are some strange responses to a drug called Avastin, where sometimes people do really well with that. So you can ask about that. So it's those kinds of tumors people have been doing better with in recent years. So that's the good news.
Yeah, it just, what I thought was strange was just, it seems like my, small circle of, family and friends are coming down with growths in their brain. That's what I find weird.
Well,
and they all have the Pfizer vaccine. So that's,
it is. I'll log it. You know what I mean? That'll be in my thinking as I look around and see what else odd I see.
And nothing in your grandparents' history of anything like this.
Man, it doesn't really.
No, not at all.
But as you know well, random events segregate non-randomly.
That's so weird, though.
Random events occur in series.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want to make that leap. Saying, well, okay, just because a certain population or me, but it just seems weird timing, weird everything. Like it's like too many people around me are getting.
I know, I get
brain
it.
damage.
Yeah, I get it. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird and disconcerting.
And that one common denominator that I see is that, is the Pfizer vaccine. So it was just kind of strange because they all had the Pfizer vaccine.
I mean, I can understand that.
So it's again, if we decide that the excess deaths are due to a sudden increase in certain cancers and all, Alex Berenson has been looking at this data, and I don't know, the stuff that he printed, it didn't really enlighten me any. But you might look at his thread. He breaks down a little bit the various causes of death in that excess death category. Leopold, good to hear your voice, my friend.
Yeah, good to hear you guys too.
All right, buddy.
You have a great one.
Thanks.
You and Susan. All right,
thank you.
Bye-bye.
We will. Tomorrow we have Dr. Spiro Panatazatos. There he is. Now, this was a Kelly get. Yes. She was very excited about him. Do you know what that was about, Caleb?
Yeah, I'm gonna hand this one over.
My brain is, where is my notes? Let's see.
He's a psychiatrist, neurobiology, psychiatry. So
assistant professor of clinical neurobiology at Columbia. And he had originally planned to stay locked down through the pandemic until a vaccine arrived, but then he started studying the data and says that he found this alarming pattern of adverse reactions and events that seemed to increase based on areas that administered more doses. And so he's going to speak on that and what he believes was suppressed.
All right, we're going to look at that, and we'll do a little bit of mass formation psychosis, since he is a psychiatrist. I'm looking at some of his other publications. Global impact of the first year of COVID vaccine, mathematical modeling. He published it too. He published some data. Very interesting.
And he went to Paulina's alma mater.
He went to Columbia.
Or he works there.
Yeah, he works at Columbia. And by the way, those of you who are negative on Dr. Oz, he was the chairman of the Department of Cardiovascular Surgery, cardiothoracic surgery at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. That's the highest academic standing you can achieve.
He's smart.
Yeah. Whole transchrome brain expression, exon using.
Yeah, if you have a heart attack, he's the guy to be on a plane with.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so we will be up with Dr. Pantazatos. Is that how I'm going to have to get that pronunciation tomorrow before we bring him in here. Let me go one last look around.
And he's running for government. Give the guy a break. Like, he's trying so hard.
You're still in Oz.
I am. I like Dr. Oz.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I'm just looking through your comments over on the Rumble Rants, everybody. How are things at Rumble these days, now that it's a public company?
Yeah, go buy stock there.
Let's see.
Keep the Rumble Ranters going.
Chicken pox. Let me see. Okay, you guys. 30 friends suddenly have kidney stones. Atrial fib is the one I worry about. I don't know about the stone formation, but the atrial fib and the supraventricular arrhythmia is things I really, really worry about, because I'm seeing an awful lot of that, and I do think it is vaccine related. It makes sense that it would be like localized myocarditis that doesn't really cause symptoms other than the abnormal electrical discharges. Okay, Kelly is on tomorrow. She'll be here with us with Dr. Pantazatos. What's that, Susan?
Boost the ratings a little bit, bring her back.
Yeah. Caleb, anything else before I wrap it up here?
Oh, no, it's all good here. I'm excited for tomorrow's show, and especially the attention that the Ed Dowd episode got over the weekend. It was over 180,000 views. It grew by over this weekend. So thank you, everyone, for watching. And probably a lot of new people here on today's show that came from that video, because you gained over like 1,500 subscribers overnight. So it's been pretty
Thanks for subscribing and liking us and being nice to us. We really appreciate it.
And if you have topics you'd like me to get into, you can. Susan interviews all the emails at contact@drdrew.com, contact@drdrew.com. Those of you, one of these, we ought to start pulling questions out of there, Susan, because I'm not getting into all the calls on Twitter Spaces.
Well, I had one I sent you today, remember?
Yeah. But the ones that I can answer, I will answer. But unfortunately, I can't answer every question on an email, because it's information I need beyond what's provided in the email sometimes. Thank you all for being here. Again, it is tomorrow at 3:00, same bat time, same bat station, right here with Dr. Pantazatos and Dr. Kelly Victory. We'll see you then, 3:00.
Go, Kelly.
Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.
I didn't understand the modern day military, that they were much more sophisticated than I'd seen in movies. I'd always seen these kill a commie for mommy movies. And I didn't relate to that. I didn't understand that. I was intimidated, like they're not going to like me. They're not going to understand my jokes. Then I get over there. It's moms, it's dads, it's engineers, it's truck drivers. They just all happen to be wearing the same outfit. Harder to roast. They're all wearing the same outfit, but a best audience ever.